Reclaim your power. Make every single day about becoming who you were meant to be. Part 1. Introduction, the Distraction Epidemic, and the Self-Priority Principle. Let me be honest with you for a moment. When was the last time you woke up and gave yourself permission to put your own transformation first? Not your inbox, not your social feeds, not the 100 little fires everyone else needs you to put out. When did you last look in the mirror and say, "Today is mine, today I build"? If that question makes you pause, you are in exactly the right place. And trust me, you are not the only one who struggles with this. The vast majority of people walk through life pouring their energy into everything and everyone except themselves. They open their eyes in the morning, and the first thing they reach for is a screen full of other people's updates, other people's opinions, other people's curated perfection. They spend their afternoons solving problems that were never theirs to solve. They crawl into bed at night replaying awkward moments, worrying about deadlines, and mentally rehearsing tomorrow's chaos before it even arrives. But here is what the people who genuinely thrive understand at a bone-deep level. The single most important project you will ever work on is yourself. Not your career, not your relationships, not your bank account. You. Everything else flows from that foundation. This book is your guide to channeling every drop of your mental and emotional fuel toward one life-altering mission, rebuilding yourself from the inside out, brick by brick, day by day. You're about to discover why making yourself a daily priority is not selfish, but one of the most generous things you can do for the people you love. Why reconstructing your inner world is not some luxury reserved for people with free time, but an absolute necessity for anyone who wants a meaningful life. And why the handful of people who master this single discipline end up living with a sense of purpose and joy that most can only admire from a distance. By the end of this journey, you will walk away with a practical, repeatable framework for putting yourself at the center of your own story every single day. Not in a way that shuts others out, but in a way that fills your cup so full that generosity becomes effortless rather than exhausting. The real question is not whether you need to rebuild. The real question is whether you're finally willing to stop waiting for the perfect moment and start showing up for yourself right now. Chapter 1. The Distractio and Epidemic. Right now, at this very moment, your attention is being pulled in 1,000 directions at once, and it is quietly stealing your future. Every single morning, before your feet even hit the floor, you begin splitting yourself into fragments. You reach for your phone, scan headlines, scroll through feeds, answer messages, and by the time you take your first sip of coffee, your mind has already been invaded by dozens of agendas that have nothing to do with your dreams. I call this the distraction epidemic, and it is the silent killer of potential. It is the reason so many talented, intelligent, good-hearted people never build the life that is waiting for them. They give so much of their focus to external noise that there is nothing left for the internal work that actually creates change. Think about what happens when you roll over and immediately open a social app. You are sending yourself a quiet but powerful message. What strangers are posting matters more than what I am becoming. When you fill your drive to work with talk radio arguing about crises you have zero influence over, you are flooding your mind with stress that serves absolutely no constructive purpose. When you spend your breaks comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel, You are training your brain to measure itself by someone else's yardstick instead of building its own masterpiece. Studies tell us the average adult glances at their device around 100 times each day. That is roughly once every 9 or 10 waking minutes. And each time you break away from whatever you were doing, you are not just losing those few seconds. You are shattering your entire cognitive flow. Researchers have shown that after a single interruption, it can take more than 20 minutes to fully re-enter a state of deep focus. Run those numbers, and the picture becomes alarming. If you interrupt yourself every 10 minutes but need 20+ minutes to truly refocus, you are never actually present. You are living in a permanent state of mental static, and a mind drowning in static cannot build anything extraordinary. But the distraction epidemic runs far deeper than screens and notifications. It shows up in the way you think about your challenges. Instead of zeroing in on the things within your power, your habits, your knowledge, your attitude, your daily decisions, you pour mental energy into things you cannot touch. You worry about the job market, about what your neighbor thinks of you, about a conversation from 3 years ago, about hypothetical futures that may never arrive. You spend hours analyzing other people's choices, rehearsing arguments that will never happen, predicting outcomes you have no control over. This outward obsession creates a vicious spiral. The more you look outward, the less you grow inward. The less you grow inward, the more you depend on external validation, external entertainment, external direction. And the more dependent you become on the outside world, the less sovereignty you hold over your own life. Meanwhile, the men and women who produce remarkable results live by a radically different code. They treat their attention like oxygen in a sealed room because to them it is exactly that precious. They know that focus is the most valuable currency they possess, and they flat out refuse to let it be stolen by anything that does not serve their growth. These individuals do not grab their phones the instant they wake up. Instead, they open their day with rituals that fortify their inner world. A few pages of a challenging book, a meditation session, a planning block where they map the day around their own priorities. They do not mindlessly consume whatever content the algorithm serves. They choose what enters their mind with the same care a chef chooses ingredients. Only what nourishes, only what builds. They do not hemorrhage mental energy on circumstances they cannot change. Instead, they funnel 100% of their focus into the variables they can influence: their thoughts, their habits, their craft, their daily actions. This laser-like concentration creates a compounding effect that the distracted majority will never taste. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Your life will not shift until you reclaim your attention. As long as your focus is scattered, your results will mirror that chaos. As long as your energy is fragmented, your progress will be patchy and unpredictable. But the instant you learn to gather all of your mental resources and aim them squarely at rebuilding yourself, the entire game changes. This does not mean becoming a hermit or neglecting your responsibilities. It means understanding that the strongest, most emotionally stable, most capable version of you will naturally handle relationships, obligations, and curveballs better than the scattered version ever could. But you cannot give what you have not built, and you cannot build what you refuse to focus on. The distraction epidemic has sold you a lie, that prioritizing yourself is selfish. The truth is the opposite. People with scattered focus become emotional sinkholes for everyone around them. They are constantly reaching for reassurance, validation, and guidance from others because they never cultivated those qualities inside themselves. People who invest in their own reconstruction become anchors of stability and strength. They are grounded, purposeful, and generous because they have done the inner work that makes genuine generosity possible. Starting right now, I need you to recognize something. Every time your focus scatters, a piece of your potential evaporates. Every time you choose a mindless scroll over a meaningful practice, you're trading lasting transformation for a 3-second dopamine flicker. The people living extraordinary lives are not smarter, luckier, or more gifted than you. They simply learned to direct all of their energy toward the one project that matters most, becoming the strongest version of themselves. Once you master that discipline, every other challenge in your life gets easier. Chapter 2. The Self-Priority Principle. Putting yourself first is not arrogance. It is the bedrock beneath every meaningful thing you will ever build. Yet most of us have been trained since childhood to believe that directing energy inward is somehow wrong, vain, or morally suspect. That training is quietly wrecking lives, and it is time to dismantle it once and for all. The confusion comes from mixing up two very different things: genuine self-investment and plain old narcissism. True self-investment is not about ignoring people, being cold, or placing yourself on a pedestal above everyone else. It is about acknowledging a simple, powerful truth. You can only share what you actually possess. You can only lift others when you are standing on solid ground yourself. You can only create value in the world after you have created value within. Picture a lifeguard who cannot swim. Useless, right? That is exactly what happens when you try to serve, support, and show up for others while running on fumes. Think of the airplane safety briefing you have heard 100 times. Secure your own oxygen mask before assisting anyone else. Why? Because if you pass out from lack of air, you help exactly 0 people. The same principle echoes through every corner of life. If you are mentally exhausted, emotionally hollowed out, and physically drained, your capacity to genuinely serve anyone else is an illusion. Self-investment is the deliberate practice of pouring energy into your character, your skills, your mindset, your health, and your capabilities. It is about transforming yourself into someone who adds value rather than leaks it, someone who solves problems instead of multiplying them, someone who lifts others through their own elevated state of being. The people who create outstanding results understand this deeply. They feel no guilt about blocking time for their own development because they know the investment will ripple outward to benefit everyone they touch. A person who has strengthened their mental discipline will not unravel under pressure, which makes them far more reliable for their family and their team. Someone who has sharpened their skills becomes more valuable in their profession, which means they can provide more generously for the people they love and contribute more powerfully to their community. But self-investment is about more than practical returns. It is about reclaiming ownership of your life experience. When you spend most of your energy fixated on external factors, other people's judgments, circumstances outside your reach, outcomes you cannot guarantee, you hand your power to the wind. You become a leaf blown around by your environment rather than the gardener shaping it. Self-investment puts you back behind the wheel. It moves your gaze from what is happening to you toward what you're cultivating within you. Instead of asking, "Why does this keep happening to me?" you start asking, "What can I learn from this? And how can I come out stronger?" Instead of thinking, "Maybe things will get better on their own," you think, "What can I do today to become better?" This shift activates what psychologists call an internal locus of control. People who operate from an internal locus believe their actions and choices are the primary drivers of their outcomes. Study after study confirms that these individuals are happier, more resilient, and more successful than those who believe life is mostly dictated by forces beyond their influence. The self-priority principle rests on 4 pillars. The first pillar is radical ownership. Everything in your current life is something you either created, permitted, or have not yet figured out how to change. This is not about blame. Bad things happen to good people, but it is about accepting that your response to every situation is entirely yours to choose. The second pillar is relentless improvement. People who prioritize themselves commit to becoming even 1% better every single day. They do not chase perfection, they chase progress. They understand that tiny, consistent upgrades stack on top of one another like compound interest, eventually producing results that seem almost miraculous to outsiders. The third pillar is authentic evolution. Self-investment is not about molding yourself into who society says you should be or who your parents dreamed you would become. It is about peeling back the layers to reveal and strengthen the truest, most capable version of who you already are. It is about aligning your outer world with your inner values and deepest aspirations. The fourth pillar is service through strength. The ultimate purpose of self-investment is not to build a fortress of isolation. It is to become so grounded, so skilled, so emotionally resilient that you can serve others from abundance rather than desperation. When you have built a solid inner foundation, you can give without draining yourself and support without losing yourself in someone else's problems. Building on these pillars demands a fundamental shift in how you think about time and energy. Instead of automatically handing your best hours to other people's agendas, you protect sacred time for your own growth. Instead of consuming whatever content is easiest or most entertaining, you intentionally feed your mind only what moves you closer to your vision. This is not about becoming rigid or cold. It is about becoming deliberate. You can still be generous with your time and energy, but now that generosity flows from choice rather than obligation, from strength rather than weakness. Many people struggle with self-investment because they have never learned to separate healthy self-focus from toxic self-absorption. Healthy self-focus makes you a gift to others. Toxic self-absorption makes you a burden. Healthy self-focus builds character and depth. Toxic self-absorption feeds ego and insecurity. Healthy self-focus generates abundance. Toxic self-absorption operates from scarcity and fear. The dividing line is intention and outcome. When your inward focus is designed to make you more disciplined, more emotionally stable, more skilled, and more compassionate, it is healthy. When it is designed to dodge responsibility, chase applause, or feed an insatiable ego, it is not. From this moment forward, view self-investment as a moral duty rather than a guilty pleasure. The world desperately needs more people who have done the hard work of becoming mentally strong, emotionally grounded, physically capable, and spiritually anchored. Your commitment to rebuilding yourself is not only about elevating your own life, it is about becoming someone whose very presence elevates the room. Chapter 3. The Architecture of personal reconstruction. Your brain is engineered to keep you exactly where you are right now, and understanding this single fact changes everything. Most people try to overhaul their lives while unknowingly fighting against their own neurological wiring, then feel baffled when change feels like swimming through wet concrete. The secret to genuine personal reconstruction is learning to work with your brain's natural architecture instead of battling it. Your brain operates as what neuroscientists call a prediction engine. Its primary mandate is not to make you happy or successful. It is to keep you alive while burning as little energy as possible. To do this efficiently, it builds predictions based on past experience and then works overtime to make those predictions come true. That is why familiar routines feel safe and comfortable even when they're actively harming you. Staying in a dead-end job feels safer than launching a business. Eating junk food feels safer than overhauling your diet. Binge watching feels safer than sitting with a challenging book. When you attempt to change, your brain reads the unfamiliar signal as a potential threat. It fires up what researchers call the threat detection network, flooding your bloodstream with stress hormones and creating a wall of psychological resistance. Your brain is literally treating personal growth the way it would treat a predator in the tall grass. No wonder breaking old habits feels like an uphill war. But here is the part almost nobody tells you. You can reprogram this system. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to physically rewire its own circuitry, follows specific rules. When you understand and apply those rules, transformation stops being a hopeful wish and becomes an engineering project with a predictable outcome. Rule 1 is intentional repetition. Your brain reinforces pathways that fire frequently and lets unused pathways fade. Every time you practice a new thought, pattern, a new behavior, or a new emotional response, you are literally laying fresh neural cable. But casual repetition is not enough. You need focused, purposeful repetition aimed squarely at the specific changes you want to install. Rule 2 is emotional charge. Your brain gives priority to experiences that carry strong emotional weight. This is why a single traumatic event can rewire your neural landscape in seconds. But the good news is that the same principle works in your favor. When you pair new behaviors with powerful positive emotions like pride, accomplishment, or deep satisfaction, you dramatically speed up the rewiring process. Rule 3 is environmental cueing. Your brain uses signals from your surroundings to trigger automatic behaviors. If you always snack when you sit on the couch itself becomes a snacking trigger. If you want to change your patterns, you either need to redesign your environment or deliberately create new associations with existing triggers. This is why rearranging your workspace, changing your morning scenery, or restructuring your social circle can be so effective in supporting transformation. Rule 4 is identity alignment. Your brain works relentlessly to keep your actions consistent with how you see yourself. If your self-image says you are someone who cannot stick with anything, your brain will hunt for evidence to confirm that story and filter out evidence that contradicts it. But the moment you begin telling yourself a new story, I am someone who follows through, your brain starts working equally hard to maintain consistency with that upgraded identity. Understanding these rules lets you design a reconstruction process that flows with your biology instead of against it. You stop relying on raw willpower, which burns out fast, and start building systems that make your desired changes feel natural and almost automatic. Personal reconstruction also requires distinguishing between surface changes and deep structural changes. Most people tinker with their behaviors without ever addressing the beliefs, identities, and mental blueprints that generated those behaviors in the first place. This is why most New Year's resolutions crash and burn before February. They treat symptoms while the root cause sits untouched. Deep structural change means examining and often completely rebuilding your core beliefs about yourself, about what you deserve, and about how the world operates. These beliefs function like the operating system of a computer. They decide which programs can run and how smoothly everything functions. If your operating system is infected with limiting beliefs, toxic self-talk, and a scarcity mindset, no amount of surface-level habit tweaking will produce lasting results. True reconstruction must address 5 interconnected domains simultaneously: mental models, emotional patterns, behavioral systems, physical practices, and environmental design. Mental models are the lenses through which you interpret reality and make decisions. Emotional patterns are your habitual reactions to triggers and situations. Behavioral systems are the daily actions you repeat on autopilot. Physical practices are how you treat and use your body. Environmental design is how you structure your surroundings to either support or sabotage your growth. Most people try to change one domain at a time, but this piecemeal approach is slow and often collapses because the domains are deeply interconnected. A shift in one area can either reinforce or undermine shifts in the others. When you align all 5 domains around a single vision of who you are becoming, transformation accelerates and resistance drops dramatically. The reconstruction process also demands that you stop treating setbacks as proof of failure. They are a natural, unavoidable part of rewiring a brain that has spent years, maybe decades, running the old program. Your brain will test your commitment by throwing you into situations designed to trigger your old responses. These are not catastrophes to dread. They are reps at the gym. Every time you choose the new response over the old pattern, you are not just making a good decision in that moment. You are physically strengthening the neural pathway that will make that good decision automatic in the future. The most successful rebuilders approach the process with the curiosity of a scientist rather than the anxiety of a perfectionist. Instead of judging themselves for old patterns or losing patience with the pace of change, they observe their reactions, experiment with new strategies, and adjust based on what the data tells them. This scientific mindset strips the emotional drama out of transformation and lets you focus on what actually moves the needle. You become less obsessed with being flawless and more interested in collecting evidence about what brings you closer to your ideal self. That shift alone can double the speed of your reconstruction by removing the psychological friction that bogs most people down. One more thing worth noting about the architecture of change: your environment includes not just your physical space, but your informational and social surroundings. The conversations you have, the content you consume, the attitudes you absorb from the people around you. All of these are inputs that either support or sabotage your neural rewiring. If you spend your evenings in conversations that reinforce your old identity, your brain gets conflicting signals. During the day, you're trying to build new patterns. At night, your social world is telling your brain the old version is the real you. Alignment matters. When your physical environment, your social circle, and your daily practices all point in the same direction. Your brain stops treating the new patterns as threats and starts treating them as the new normal. That is when change moves from effortful to effortless. And that is the turning point most people never reach because they try to rebuild themselves while leaving every other variable unchanged. Change the inputs and the outputs will follow. Chapter 4. Designing your daily reconstruction ritual. The gap between people who successfully transform and people who stay stuck is not talent, luck, or superhuman willpower. It is systems. Specifically, it is having a daily reconstruction ritual that guarantees forward movement no matter how you feel, what curveballs appear, or how loud the world gets. A daily ritual is a structured framework for personal growth that takes decision-making out of the equation and replaces it with autopilot consistency. Instead of waking up each morning wondering whether you will find time for yourself, you have a pre-built routine that ensures you invest in your rebuilding before the day can steal your energy. The magic of a ritual lies in its independence from motivation. Motivation is a moody friend. Some days it shows up with fireworks. Other days it does not even return your calls. But a well-designed ritual does not need motivation. It only needs you to follow the steps you already laid out when you were thinking clearly. Your daily ritual should be anchored around 5 core pillars that address different dimensions of your reconstruction. Pillar 1 is mental conditioning. These are practices that sharpen your mind for clarity, focus, and grit. This could be morning meditation, journaling your thoughts, visualization of your goals, or reading material that stretches your perspective. Even 10 quiet minutes of intentional mental work can set the tone for an entirely different kind of day. Pillar 2 is skill building. This is dedicated time for deliberately practicing abilities that make you more capable and more valuable. It could be a professional skill, a creative pursuit, communication, leadership, coding, writing, anything where improvement makes your life and contribution richer. The key word is deliberate. Mindless repetition does not count. Focused practice with clear goals does. Pillar 3 is physical activation. Your body is the vehicle your mind rides in, and if the vehicle is breaking down, nothing else works well either. This does not have to mean a 90-minute gym session, a brisk walk, a set of push-ups, a yoga flow. Anything that gets your blood pumping and your lungs working counts. The point is to treat your body as the strategic asset it is. Pillar 4 is emotional calibration. These are practices that help you understand, manage, and direct your emotional energy constructively. Reflection exercises, stress release techniques, gratitude journaling, or simply spending a few minutes checking in with yourself about how you're feeling and why. Emotional awareness is not soft. It is one of the most powerful tools in your arsenal. Pillar 5 is strategic review. Regular time spent stepping back from the daily grind to see the bigger picture. Are your actions today aligned with who you want to be 6 months from now, a year from now, a decade from now? Without this bird's-eye check-in, you can stay busy forever without actually going anywhere meaningful. The critical mistake most people make is designing a ritual for their fantasy life instead of their real one. They create elaborate morning routines that assume unlimited time, zero obligations, and monk-like discipline, then abandon the whole thing the first time reality intervenes. Your ritual needs to be robust enough to survive busy weeks, sick days, emotional storms, and unexpected chaos. Start by identifying the minimum effective dose for each pillar. What is the smallest amount of practice that still creates forward movement? Maybe it is 5 minutes of meditation instead of 30. Maybe it is 15 minutes of skill practice instead of an hour. Maybe it is a 10-minute walk instead of a full workout. The goal is to build a ritual you can maintain on your worst days, not one that impresses people on your best days. Your ritual should also be designed around your natural energy rhythms. If you are sharpest in the morning, schedule your most demanding self-focus activities before anything else can interfere. If your evenings are chaotic, do not plant critical growth practices there. Work with your reality, not against it. The timing principle is important. The most effective rebuilders protect the opening stretch of their day for self-investment before the world starts making demands. This does not require a 4 a.m. alarm. It simply means placing your reconstruction ritual ahead of everyone else's expectations in the daily queue. Implementation should be gradual. Do not try to install all 5 pillars on day 1. That overwhelms your brain's capacity to adapt and almost guarantees collapse. Instead, introduce one pillar at a time. Spend a week or two making it feel automatic before layering in the next. This lets your brain wire in each new habit before you ask it to juggle another one. Flexibility is non-negotiable. Life will knock your routine sideways, and your needs will evolve as you grow. Build contingency versions. What does your ritual look like when you are traveling? When you're sick? When a family crisis erupts? Having a plan B, even a stripped-down 5-minute version, protects your momentum when perfection is not possible. Tracking keeps you honest and motivated. A simple checkmark for each day you complete your ritual can be more powerful than any complex metrics dashboard. You need just enough visibility to see whether you are showing up consistently and to spot patterns when you are not. Avoid turning measurement into an obsession that steals time from the actual practices. Schedule periodic reviews, a quick weekly scan, a deeper monthly reflection, and a thorough quarterly overhaul. Your reconstruction is a living process, and your ritual should evolve alongside your growth. What worked in month 1 might need upgrading by month 4. Environmental support makes everything smoother. Lay out your journal and pen the night before. Keep your workout clothes visible. Create a dedicated space, even if it is just a corner, for your morning practice. Remove friction from the behaviors you want to keep and add friction to the ones you want to drop. Make it easier to follow your ritual than to skip it. Most importantly, your ritual should feel meaningful, not punishing. If your morning practice feels like a chore you dread, something needs adjusting. Connect each pillar to the deeper vision of who you are becoming. When you feel the purpose behind the practice, consistency stops being a battle and starts being a privilege. When your daily reconstruction ritual is dialed in, transformation is no longer left to chance. You are no longer hoping the stars align. You are systematically and deliberately shaping the person you want to be, one intentional day at a time. Chapter 5. Reclaiming your mental bandwidth. Your mind is under siege. Every ping, every notification, every algorithmically curated feed is engineered by teams of behavioral scientists whose sole job is to capture your attention and hold it hostage for as long as possible. If rebuilding yourself is your mission, reclaiming sovereignty over your mental bandwidth is your first battle. The modern human is bombarded with an astonishing volume of information every single day. Your phone buzzes, your inbox swells, your feeds refresh, and the sheer noise makes sustained concentration feel almost impossible. Your brain was never designed for this level of input. The result is a chronic state of shallow thinking, where deep focus and genuine progress become rare. Luxuries instead of daily norms. But the real danger is not just the quantity of distractions. It is their addictive design. Social platforms employ variable ratio reinforcement, the same psychological principle that keeps gamblers glued to slot machines. You never know exactly when the next like, comment, or share will arrive, so your brain releases dopamine not just when you get engagement, but in anticipation of it. This creates a neurochemical loop that hijacks your reward circuitry. Your mind starts craving quick digital hits more than the slower, richer satisfaction that comes from focused work and personal growth. The outcome is a persistent state of mental restlessness where sitting still with one task for 30 uninterrupted minutes feels like climbing a mountain. Breaking free requires more than gritting your teeth and hoping for the best. You need a deliberate strategy to redesign your environment and habits so that sustained focus becomes your default rather than your exception. Step 1 is an honest awareness audit. For one full week, track every time you reach for your phone out of habit, check a social app, open a browser for no particular reason, or default to entertainment when a task gets boring. Do not try to change anything yet. Just observe and record. Most people are stunned when they see the raw numbers. You cannot fix a leak you have not found. Step 2 is building friction barriers between you and your most magnetic distractions. This might look like putting your phone in another room during deep work blocks, installing website blockers that activate during focus hours, or deleting social apps from your device so that using them requires the deliberate act of re-downloading. The goal is not to become a digital monk. It is to make distraction an intentional choice rather than an unconscious reflex. Step 3 is redirecting the impulse. Your brain has been conditioned to reach for stimulation whenever it encounters boredom or mild discomfort. Instead of trying to white-knuckle the urge away, channel it somewhere constructive. When the itch to scroll hits, do 10 push-ups, review your goals for 30 seconds, or spend 5 minutes practicing a skill. This redirection accomplishes 2 things at once. It breaks the automatic reach for the phone cycle, and it trains your brain to associate restlessness with productive action rather than passive consumption. Your physical space matters more than you think. If your phone is always within arm's reach, but the book you want to read is in another room, you have designed your environment for distraction. If your television dominates your living area, but there is no comfortable spot to journal or reflect, you are architecturally voting for the old version of you. Flip the script. Make the tools of growth the easiest things to reach and the tools of distraction the hardest. Internal mental noise is often trickier to tackle because it comes from within. Worry about things you cannot control, mental replays of past blunders, catastrophic fantasies about a future that has not happened, the relentless internal commentary that many people confuse with useful thinking. This chatter fragments your focus just as effectively as any push notification. The antidote is developing what psychologists call metacognitive awareness, the ability to watch your own thought patterns without being swept away by them. Meditation is one of the best research tools for this, but you do not need to sit cross-legged on a mountaintop. 5 minutes of focused breathing or simply observing your thoughts without judgment during a morning walk can significantly dial down the noise. The trick is learning to distinguish between productive thinking and mental static. Productive thinking is directed, purposeful, and leads to decisions or insights. Mental static is circular, repetitive, and builds nothing. When you catch yourself spinning in static, acknowledge it gently and steer your attention back to something constructive. Another technique worth its weight in gold is thought scheduling. Instead of letting worries, plans, and random problem-solving ambush you throughout the day, assign them a specific time slot. When a distracting thought pops up during a focus block, jot it on a notepad and promise yourself you will deal with it during your scheduled thinking window. Then return to the task at hand. This teaches your brain that not every thought deserves immediate attention, which dramatically reduces the mental interruptions that shred your concentration. Your information diet deserves as much care as your food diet. Just as a week of fast food leaves your body sluggish and foggy, a week of junk content leaves your mind scattered and dull. Be ruthlessly selective about what you allow into your mental ecosystem. Before consuming any content, run it through a quick filter. Does this help me become the person I want to be? Does it give me something I can actually use? Does it lift my energy or drain it? If the answer is no, cut it. Your attention is far too precious to waste on material that does not serve your growth. The final piece is building what researchers call cognitive endurance, your capacity to maintain deep focus for extended stretches. Like physical endurance, this is trainable. Start by measuring your current attention span for meaningful work. How long can you stay locked in before the pull to check your phone or switch tasks becomes unbearable? Then extend that window by 5 to 10 minutes each week while keeping the same quality of focus. Over time, you will rebuild your brain's ability to sustain deep work. Sessions that once felt impossible will start feeling natural. You will discover that you can work for hours in a flow state without craving a distraction hit. Every minute you spend in focused reconstruction is a minute you're not wasting on meaningless noise. Every time you choose deliberate attention over reactive scrolling, you are forging the mental toughness that separates those who transform from those who merely talk about it. Your ability to focus is your ability to build. Guard it, strengthen it, use it wisely. Chapter 6, Forgi ng Unbreakable Inner Discipline. Inner discipline is the bridge that connects the person staring back at you in the mirror today with the person you are determined to become. It is the ability to do what needs doing regardless of your mood, regardless of the obstacles in the road, regardless of how uncomfortable the path feels underfoot. Without it, every plan, every goal, every system you create is nothing more than ink on paper. Most people fundamentally misread what discipline actually is. They picture grinding, suffering, white-knuckling through misery, and punishing themselves into compliance. That approach leads straight to burnout, resentment, and spectacular collapse because it frames discipline as a war against yourself. True discipline is the opposite. It is an alliance with your highest vision. It is training your mind to naturally choose long-term fulfillment over short-term comfort, so the right choice starts to feel like the easy choice. Your brain runs on two decision-making engines. The first is your emotional engine, your limbic system, which craves whatever feels good right now and runs screaming from anything uncomfortable. The second is your strategic engine, your prefrontal cortex, which can weigh consequences, think long-term, and make decisions rooted in your values rather than your impulses. Discipline is the practice of strengthening your strategic engine while gradually teaching your emotional engine to cooperate rather than sabotage. This rewiring happens through specific, repeatable practices. The bedrock of discipline is what psychologists call cognitive load management. Your brain has a limited processing budget each day. When that budget is consumed by constant decision-making, emotional firefighting, and mental clutter, there is nothing left for discipline. This is why you might eat perfectly all day and then demolish a bag of chips at midnight when your willpower tank hits empty. Building discipline means reducing the mental cost of good choices while raising the mental cost of bad ones. You do this by creating habits, systems, and environments that make disciplined behavior the path of least resistance. Want to exercise consistently? Lay out your gear the night before, schedule the exact time, and create a routine that removes the need to decide anything in the moment. Want to stop mindlessly snacking? Stock your kitchen with foods that support your goals and make junk food inconvenient to access. The practice begins with micro-disciplines, small, almost trivial commitments that train your brain for delayed gratification. Make your bed the instant you get up. Drink a full glass of water before touching your phone. Do 10 push-ups whenever you catch yourself reaching for social media. These seem laughably small, but they serve a powerful purpose. Each time you choose the slightly harder option and experience a positive result afterward, you are building neural evidence that short-term effort leads to long-term reward. That evidence becomes the foundation for bigger, bolder disciplined choices down the road. Progressive overload applies to mental strength just as it does to physical strength. You would never walk into a gym for the first time and try to deadlift 300 pounds. The same logic applies here. If you currently cannot focus for 10 minutes without reaching for your phone, do not try to force a 2-hour deep work marathon. Build up gradually. 10 minutes today, 12 tomorrow, 15 next week. This gradual escalation allows your brain to adapt without triggering the overwhelming resistance that causes people to quit. Your environment should be your discipline's best friend, not its worst enemy. Structure your surroundings to vote for the person you are becoming. If you want to read more, keep books on every surface and hide the TV remote. If you want to eat cleaner, fill your fridge with real food and banish the junk. Your environment should make it harder to slip backward than to keep moving forward. Implementation intentions are another discipline multiplier. These are pre-decided if-then responses for predictable temptation scenarios. If I feel like checking social media during a work block, then I will take 5 deep breaths and return to my task. If I want to skip my workout, then I will commit to just 5 minutes and reassess. If I am tempted to stay up late watching videos, then I will remind myself of my morning vision and go to bed. These preloaded responses bypass the in-the-moment mental negotiation that almost always ends in a poor choice. When the situation arises, you do not need to decide. You already know what you're going to do. The people who build lasting discipline understand it is not about perfection. It is about recovery speed. You will slip. You will have weak moments. The difference between someone who transforms and someone who quits is how quickly they get back on track after a stumble. This requires self-compassion without self-indulgence. Acknowledge the slip honestly, extract whatever lesson it offers, and return to your practices without waiting for some magical burst of motivation or the mythical perfect Monday. Discipline, fueled by a compelling vision, of who you are becoming will always outlast discipline fueled by shame or fear. Fear-based discipline eventually sparks rebellion and burnout. Vision-based discipline sustains itself because every small, uncomfortable choice is connected to a future you genuinely want. Regularly remind yourself why these daily practices matter. When you can clearly see how today's discipline builds tomorrow's freedom, the right choice stops feeling like sacrifice and starts feeling like investment. Chapter 7. Optimize your body to supercharge your mind. Your body and your mind are not separate machines running in parallel. They are one integrated system, and the state of one directly shapes the performance of the other. Treating your physical health as some optional side quest while you try to rebuild your inner world is like trying to run advanced software on a crumbling hard drive. It simply will not work. The evidence is overwhelming. Physical fitness correlates tightly with sharper cognitive function, steadier emotions, greater stress resilience, and deeper life satisfaction. When you improve your body, you are not just sculpting muscle or dropping weight. You are literally upgrading the hardware that runs every thought, every decision, every creative impulse. Exercise triggers the release of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a protein that promotes the growth of new neural connections and shields existing brain cells from decay. Regular movement increases blood flow to the brain, delivering a richer supply of oxygen and nutrients. Physical activity also floods your system with endorphins, dopamine, and serotonin, neurotransmitters that naturally lift mood, reduce stress, and increase your overall tolerance for difficulty. But physical optimization extends far beyond just hitting the gym. It encompasses sleep quality, nutrition, hydration, posture, breathing mechanics, and recovery practices. Each of these elements directly influences your mental game, and optimizing them systematically can multiply your ability to focus, learn, and execute. Sleep is the single most underrated performance enhancer on the planet. While you sleep, your brain consolidates memories, processes emotional residue, clears metabolic waste, and prepares itself for peak performance the next day. Poor sleep impairs decision-making, emotional regulation, creativity, and willpower, essentially kneecapping every dimension of personal development in one blow. Optimizing sleep is not just about more hours. It is about better conditions. Consistent sleep and wake times train your internal clock. A cool, dark, quiet bedroom signals your body that it is time to shut down deeply, avoiding stimulants and screens in the hour. Before bed prevents the artificial alertness that keeps your brain spinning when it should be winding down. Your pre-sleep routine matters as much as the sleep itself. Spend the last hour of your day with calming activities, a few pages of fiction, gentle stretching, journaling about what went well today, or mapping out tomorrow's priorities. These rituals tell your nervous system the day is done and it is safe to rest. Nutrition is brain fuel. Your brain burns roughly 20% of your daily calories and depends on stable glucose levels to function at its best. Wild dietary swings, processed junk, and nutrient gaps create brain fog, mood volatility, and diminished mental clarity. Focus on foods that deliver sustained energy, quality protein, healthy fats, and complex carbohydrates. The goal is not dietary perfection. It is consistent nourishment that keeps your energy stable and your thinking sharp throughout the day. Hydration is the simplest upgrade most people overlook. Even mild dehydration impairs concentration, memory, and mood. Start your morning with a large glass of water to rehydrate after sleep, and keep water accessible throughout the day. Pay attention to the difference proper hydration makes. Most people are surprised by how much sharper they feel when they are consistently well hydrated. Posture sends powerful signals to your brain. Slouching and collapsing inward tells your nervous system you are defeated and low energy. Standing tall with open shoulders tells it you are alert, confident, and ready. This is not just metaphor. Posture directly affects breathing depth, blood flow, and nervous system activation. Practice maintaining upright, open posture during your most important activities. This simple shift can improve mood, confidence, and cognitive clarity almost immediately. Breathing is your most immediate lever for physical and mental optimization. Most people breathe shallowly from their chest, which keeps their stress response simmering. Learning to breathe deeply from your diaphragm instantly improves focus, lowers stress hormones, and enhances mental performance. Try this. Inhale slowly through your nose for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale through your mouth for 6. This pattern activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode that promotes calm alertness and optimal thinking. Recovery is not laziness, it is strategy. Your body and brain need regular restoration to adapt to stress and keep improving. This includes quality sleep, yes, but also active recovery, gentle movement, stretching, time in nature, or simply doing nothing for a deliberate period. High performers build recovery into their schedules because they know that rest is what allows them to push harder when it matters. Movement throughout the day is essential. Sitting for hours on end reduces blood flow, dampens alertness, and impairs cognitive function. Build micro-movement into your routine. Walk during phone calls, stand up, and stretch between tasks. Take a 5-minute stroll every hour. The type of formal exercise you choose matters far less than whether you actually do it consistently. Find activities you enjoy, whether that is lifting weights, swimming, hiking, dancing, playing basketball, or practicing martial arts. The best exercise program in the world is the one you will actually show up for week after week. Physical optimization is not about chasing a magazine cover. It is about creating a physical foundation sturdy enough to support your mental and emotional ambitions. When your body is energized and well maintained, every other aspect of reconstruction becomes easier. When it is neglected, even simple tasks feel like climbing through mud. Start small, stay consistent, and watch how physical upgrades ripple into every corner of your life. Chapter 8. Mastering the Emotional Terrain. Emotions are not roadblocks to demolish or weaknesses to hide. They are potent signals carrying vital information, and when you learn to read them clearly and channel them wisely, they become the most powerful fuel in your reconstruction engine. Most people live at the mercy of their feelings, tossed around like a small boat in a storm. Emotional mastery does not mean becoming a robot. It means learning to feel everything fully while choosing your response consciously. It is about becoming the captain of your emotional ship rather than a passenger clinging to the rail. The first breakthrough in emotional mastery is understanding that emotions are not facts. They are interpretations of reality filtered through your beliefs, your past, and your current state. Two people can sit in the same traffic jam. One seethes with rage. The other uses the time to listen to an audiobook and feels grateful for the unexpected pause. Same event, wildly different emotional experiences. This realization is freeing because it means you have far more influence over your emotional life than you probably believe. While you cannot always choose what emotions arise, you can influence how you interpret events and how you act on whatever feelings show up. Emotional awareness is the foundation. Most people experience their feelings as a blurry, overwhelming mass. They know they feel bad but cannot name what is actually happening inside them. Start developing a richer emotional vocabulary. Move beyond good and bad. Learn to pinpoint specific feelings: frustration, disappointment, restlessness, gratitude, excitement, determination. Each emotion carries unique information and calls for a different response. Practice regular emotional check-ins throughout the day. Pause and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Where does it live in my body? What might have triggered it? What message is this emotion trying to deliver? This simple habit builds the self-awareness that makes mastery possible. Every emotion has a job. Fear warns you of potential danger and motivates preparation. Anger signals a boundary violation and energizes you to protect what matters. Sadness helps you process loss and reconnects you to what you value most. Excitement flags opportunity and fuels action. When you start treating emotions as messengers rather than enemies, you respond far more effectively to what they are telling you. Instead of trying to silence uncomfortable feelings, you listen, learn, and take informed action. Emotional regulation is fundamentally different from emotional suppression. Suppression means cramming feelings down, pretending they do not exist. That approach almost always backfires because suppressed emotions gain pressure and eventually explode in destructive ways. Regulation means acknowledging what you feel, understanding its message, and then choosing a healthy and productive way to express and act on it. One of the most powerful regulation tools is cognitive reappraisal, the practice of consciously reframing how you interpret a situation. Nervous before a big presentation? Instead of reading those butterflies as evidence you will fail, reframe them as your body gearing up for a peak performance. Someone criticizes your work? Instead of taking it as a personal attack, view it as free coaching that could sharpen your edge. The key is finding interpretations that are both honest and empowering. You're not lying to yourself about reality. You are choosing to focus on the aspect that helps you respond most effectively. Breathing is your fastest emotional circuit breaker. When intense emotions hit, breathing typically becomes shallow and rapid, which intensifies the emotional charge and clouds clear thinking. 5 deep, slow breaths can shift your nervous system from reactive fight or flight mode to responsive, clear-headed calm within seconds. Physical movement is another powerful emotional processor. Emotions generate energy in the body, and sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is move that energy through your system. Walk when you are frustrated. Do jumping jacks when anxiety spikes. Dance when joy bubbles up. The goal is not to erase the emotion, but to let it flow through you in a healthy way that leaves you balanced and clear. Emotional boundaries are essential during reconstruction. Learn to distinguish between your feelings and other people's feelings. Stop absorbing everyone else's emotional weather as if it were your own. You can be empathetic and supportive without becoming emotionally entangled or codependent. Take ownership of your emotional state rather than outsourcing that responsibility to the people around you. Building positive emotional states is just as important as managing difficult ones. Gratitude, enthusiasm, curiosity, and determination are not just pleasant feelings. They are high-performance psychological states that enhance learning, creativity, and perseverance. Cultivate them deliberately through gratitude practices, celebrating small victories, engaging in activities that genuinely light you up, and spending time with people who inspire you. These upward spirals make the entire reconstruction journey easier and more enjoyable. Remember, emotional mastery is a lifelong practice, not a checkbox you tick and move on. You will face new emotional challenges at every stage of growth. The goal is to continually sharpen your ability to navigate any emotional landscape with wisdom, grace, and intentionality. Chapter 9. Accelerated Learning and Rapid Skill. Building how fast you can learn and acquire new capabilities directly determines how quickly you can rebuild yourself into the person you envision. In a world that shifts beneath your feet almost daily, the ability to pick up new skills faster than problems multiply is not just a nice to have. It is essential for survival and thriving. Most people still approach learning the way they did in school, passively absorbing information and crossing their fingers that it sticks. This method is painfully slow, deeply frustrating, and largely ineffective for real-world skill development. Accelerated learning means understanding how your brain actually wires in new capabilities and then structuring your entire learning process around those biological principles. Principle 1. Skills are forged through deliberate practice, not passive consumption. Watching 100 cooking videos does not make you a chef. Reading 50 books about guitar does not make you a musician. Real skills are built through repeated hands-on practice with immediate feedback and steadily increasing challenge. Move from theory to action as fast as possible. Spend roughly 20% of your time studying a skill and 80% actually doing it, and not just going through the motions. Deliberate practice means setting specific goals for each practice session, paying close attention to feedback, and consciously pushing yourself to improve targeted aspects of your performance. Mindless repetition is a treadmill that goes nowhere. Focused, intentional reps are a ladder that climbs. Principle 2. The high-impact 20%. In virtually any skill, a small fraction of the components delivers the lion's share of the results. Your job as a smart learner is to identify those high-leverage fundamentals and master them first, rather than trying to learn everything simultaneously. If you're learning a language, drill the most common words and phrases first, not obscure vocabulary you will rarely use. If you're learning to write, master clear sentences and compelling structure before worrying about stylistic flourishes. Research what experts in your chosen skill consider the vital few elements. Build your practice around those. Once the fundamentals are solid, complexity and refinement will come much faster. Principle 3. Spaced repetition beats cramming every time. Your brain strengthens neural pathways through repeated activation spread over time. Cramming might help you pass a test tomorrow, but it does not build lasting capability. Instead of intensive short bursts, distribute your practice across longer intervals with rest periods in between. Review and practice skills regularly, even after you believe you have mastered them. This spaced approach lays down stronger, more permanent neural wiring. Principle 4. Build mental models. Mental models are frameworks that help you organize and connect information at a deeper level. Instead of memorizing isolated facts and techniques, learn the underlying principles and patterns that tie everything together. Once you understand the model of leverage, for instance, you can quickly see how it applies to physics, business, negotiation, and personal productivity. Mental models create scaffolding that accelerates all future learning. Principle 5. Teach to learn. When you explain a concept to someone else, you're forced to organize your knowledge, fill gaps in your understanding, and articulate ideas with clarity. Teaching is one of the most potent accelerators of personal mastery. Look for opportunities to mentor, coach, write about, or create content around the skills you're developing. You will be amazed at how much clearer your own understanding becomes. Cross-pollination between different but related skills can also accelerate growth. Skills often share underlying principles, and mastery in one domain frequently transfers to another. A background in music can sharpen your ear for languages. Martial arts training can improve your performance in team sports. Writing sharpens thinking in every field. Look for bridges between what you already know and what you want to learn. Those connections can cut your learning curve dramatically. Your environment shapes your learning speed. Create a dedicated space for practice, free from interruptions and distractions. Surround yourself with others who are also committed to growth. Avoid people who mock your efforts or discourage your ambitions. Their negativity is a tax on your progress. Embrace mistakes. They are not evidence that you are failing. They are the raw data your brain needs to calibrate and improve. Every error teaches you something that passive study never could. Analyze what went wrong, extract the lesson, and adjust your approach. The faster you fail and learn from those failures, the faster genuine skill emerges. And do not forget recovery. Your brain consolidates learning during sleep, converting short-term memories into durable skills. Adequate rest is not a luxury. It is a biological requirement for getting better. Plan learning sessions when your brain is fresh, and make sure you sleep well after practice. That overnight processing is as important as the practice itself. Stay focused on skills that directly serve your vision. It is tempting to chase every interesting rabbit hole, but scattered learning produces scattered results. Every skill you master should make you more capable of building the life you are after. Chapter 10. Building an unstoppable momentum. Momentum is the invisible force that separates people who achieve life-altering transformations from those trapped in a demoralizing cycle of starting and stopping. Once you build genuine momentum, maintaining progress becomes easier than quitting. But building that initial momentum requires understanding the psychological and practical mechanics behind sustained forward motion. Here is the paradox most people miss. Momentum is not about working harder. It is about working more consistently. Small, steady actions compound over time into massive results. Sporadic bursts of heroic effort followed by long stretches of nothing rarely produce lasting change. The key is constructing your life so that you make progress every single day, no matter what. Momentum starts with what researchers call minimum viable progress, the tiniest possible action you can take daily that still moves you forward. 1-page read, 5 push-ups, 1 paragraph written, 10 minutes of practice. The goal is not to accomplish everything at once. It is to keep the chain of forward motion unbroken, especially on the days when everything else falls apart. Your brain builds motivation through success experiences. Each time you follow through on a promise to yourself, you reinforce your self-trust. Each time you break that promise, you chip away at your belief in your own reliability. Minimum viable progress is your insurance policy for the inevitable bad days. It ensures that even when you are exhausted, overwhelmed, or blindsided by life, you still maintain your streak of consistency. And that consistency is far more valuable than a handful of perfect days surrounded by weeks of inaction. Energy management trumps time management for building momentum. You have different energy reserves throughout the day: physical, mental, emotional, creative. Understanding when each type peaks allows you to match activities to energy windows. Most people schedule their hardest work during their lowest energy period, then wonder why they cannot stick with anything. Schedule reconstruction activities when your tank is fullest, and use low energy windows for rest or maintenance. Progress tracking makes your gains visible and keeps motivation alive. Without tracking, improvement often feels invisible, which quietly erodes your drive. But keep your tracking simple. Focus on leading indicators, the daily actions within your control, not lagging indicators, the end results that take time and depend on factors beyond your influence. A row of check marks showing 7 straight days of completed practice can be more motivating than any metric. Celebration matters more than most people realize. Your brain needs positive reinforcement to sustain behavior over time. Most of us are experts at self-criticism and amateurs at self-acknowledgement. Build regular moments of appreciation into your process. A quick weekly note about what you showed up for. A monthly pause to recognize genuine growth. Even a simple silent nod at the end of each completed ritual. These micro-celebrations feed the neural loop that keeps you coming back. The people around you have an enormous influence on your momentum. Surround yourself with fellow builders, people committed to their own growth, who support yours. Accountability partners, growth-focused communities, mentors, even inspiring figures you follow from a distance. Energy is contagious, and positive momentum feeds off shared commitment. Conversely, people who are not invested in growth will often unconsciously drag you down through discouragement, temptation, or relentless negativity. Choose your inner circle with extreme care. Obstacle preparation prevents the momentum crashes that derail most people. Do not hope things will always go smoothly. Instead, identify the most likely disruptions to your consistency and create specific contingency plans in advance. What does your practice look like when you are traveling, when you are sick, when work explodes, when a family emergency lands? Having pre-built responses for these scenarios means you do not have to make decisions under pressure. You just follow the plan you built when you were clear-headed. Seasonal adjustment acknowledges that your energy, motivation, and circumstances naturally ebb and flow. Some months you will push hard. Other months you will maintain. Planning for these natural rhythms prevents the all-or-nothing mindset that leads to total collapse when conditions are not ideal. Remember, momentum is persistence, not perfection. Bad days will come. Setbacks will happen. The goal is to keep moving forward through them, trusting that small, consistent actions are stacking invisibly in your favor. Once momentum takes hold, protecting it becomes your highest priority. Prioritize consistency over perfection, progress over performance, and long-term vision over short-term comfort. The person you are building through this relentless forward motion will be worth every difficult day. There is a phenomenon that long-distance runners describe called the second wind. For the first several miles, everything hurts. Your lungs burn, your legs protest, your mind screams at you to stop. But if you push through that initial wall of resistance, something shifts. Your body finds a rhythm. Your breathing steadies. The pain fades into the background, and a strange, almost effortless flow takes over. Momentum in personal reconstruction works the same way. The first weeks and months are the hardest. You're fighting old patterns, building new neural pathways, and often seeing very little visible progress for your effort. But if you keep showing up day after day, the resistance starts to dissolve. The practices that once required enormous willpower begin to feel natural. The identity you are building starts to feel like your real self, rather than an aspiration. And one morning you wake up and realize that the person you were 6 months ago would barely recognize the person looking back from the mirror. That is the magic of momentum. It does not announce itself with trumpets. It builds silently, invisibly, one small, faithful action at a time, until suddenly the accumulated weight of all those days tips the scales and everything changes. Your job is simply to keep showing up long enough to reach that tipping point. Chapter 11. The Power of Solitude, and Deep Reflection. In a world addicted to constant connection and non-stop stimulation, the ability to sit alone with your own thoughts has quietly become a superpower. Solitude is not loneliness. It is not isolation. It is the intentional practice of spending time with yourself, free from external noise, to allow deep reflection, clarity, and genuine self-discovery. Most people run from silence because they have never learned to be comfortable in their own company. Every quiet moment gets filled with a podcast, a playlist, a phone scroll, a conversation, anything to avoid the discomfort of an unoccupied mind. But this constant external input prevents the deep thinking that is absolutely essential for personal reconstruction. Your most profound insights, your clearest decisions, your most creative breakthroughs surface during periods of undistracted reflection. When you remove external noise, your brain shifts from reactive mode, responding to other people's content, to generative mode, producing your own original understanding and vision. Solitude lets you separate your authentic voice from the deafening chorus of social conditioning, media influence, and other people's expectations. When you are perpetually consuming others' opinions, it becomes almost impossible to hear what you truly think and believe about the things that matter most. Regular solitude creates space for what psychologists call self-integration, the process of weaving the scattered threads of your experience into a coherent sense of who you are and where you are heading. This integration is the bedrock of real confidence and clear direction. Begin with scheduled periods where you are completely alone without any inputs. No phone, no music, no reading, no screens. Just you and your thoughts. Start short, even 10 minutes, because genuine solitude can feel surprisingly intense if you are not used to it. Allow your mind to roam freely without trying to steer it. Often the most valuable realizations surface when you are not chasing them. Pay attention to what rises naturally when distractions are absent. Deep reflection is not casual daydreaming. It is purposeful examination of your experiences, beliefs, patterns, and aspirations with the intention of gaining real insight. Guide your reflection with specific questions. What recurring patterns do I see in my behavior? What beliefs about myself might be holding me back? What experiences have shaped the identity I carry today, and how do I want that identity to grow? What would I do differently if I stopped caring what other people thought? Journaling amplifies solitude. Writing gives your thoughts a tangible form, forces vague ideas into clarity, and creates a living record of your inner evolution. Stream of consciousness writing, no editing, no censoring, just letting the pen move is especially powerful. It sidesteps your inner critic and gives deeper truths permission to surface. Solitude also opens space for prospective thinking, imagining future possibilities and planning how to bring them to life. When you're not reacting to immediate demands, you can think strategically about the long game. Use quiet periods to visualize the person you are becoming in vivid detail. See the habits, the confidence, the skills, the calm strength. Feel the satisfaction of living aligned with your potential. This mental rehearsal is not idle fantasy. Neuroscience confirms that visualizing future scenarios actually strengthens the neural pathways involved in making those scenarios real. Quiet time is also essential for processing difficult emotions that get shoved aside during busy days. Unprocessed feelings do not disappear. They pile up and eventually leak out as anxiety, irritability, or self-sabotage. Use solitude to sit with whatever is uncomfortable. Ask what it is trying to tell you. What needs are not being met? What situations need your attention? This honest emotional housekeeping prevents the silent buildup that can undermine even the best-laid reconstruction plans. The fear of solitude usually boils down to fear of what you might discover about yourself. Many people stay perpetually busy to avoid confronting truths about their lives that they are not ready to face. But avoidance does not erase those truths. It just prevents you from doing anything about them. Embrace solitude as a chance for courageous self-assessment. As you develop comfort with being alone, you will start craving these periods rather than dreading them. They become a sanctuary, a place where you reconnect with your deepest values and recharge for the work ahead. The quality of your solitude matters more than the quantity. 30 minutes of genuine phone-free reflection is worth more than hours of being physically alone while mentally consumed by external concerns. Focus on true mental solitude, not just physical isolation. Chapter 12. Cutting energy, drains, and toxic ties. The people in your life are either accelerating your reconstruction or quietly sabotaging it. There is no neutral position. Every relationship either adds fuel to your growth or siphons energy away from it. Learning to identify and address toxic connections is not cold-hearted. It is survival. Toxic relationships wear many masks, but they share a common signature. They consistently leave you feeling drained, diminished, or discouraged. These might involve people who are chronically negative, subtly manipulative, relentlessly critical, emotionally chaotic, or simply heading in a direction incompatible with where you are going. The most dangerous toxic connections are the ones that do not look obviously harmful. A friend who always finds a way to minimize your ambitions. A family member who guilts you for changing. A colleague who manufactures drama that sucks up your mental bandwidth. Because the damage is quiet, you might tolerate these relationships for years while they steadily erode your energy and confidence. Understanding the true cost is the first step toward change. Every conversation that leaves you feeling worse about yourself is time and energy that could have gone straight into your rebuilding. Every person who discourages your goals is actively working against your transformation, whether they realize it or not. Toxic people often wrap their negativity in the language of love. They are just being honest when they consistently highlight your flaws. They are just being realistic when they pour cold water on your aspirations. Learning to see through these disguises is critical for protecting your progress. Start with a relationship audit. List the people you spend the most time with and honestly assess how each one affects your energy, mood, and motivation. After spending time with each person, do you feel energized or depleted, inspired or deflated, more confident or more insecure? Look for patterns, not one-off incidents. Some relationships need to end outright. Others can be managed with clear boundaries. You cannot control how others behave, but you can control how much access they have to your time, energy, and emotional state. Limiting certain conversation topics, reducing contact frequency, or simply spending less time with consistent energy drains are all legitimate strategies. Protecting your reconstruction process while maintaining basic respect is the goal. Many people hesitate to set boundaries because they feel guilty about putting themselves first or worry about hurting feelings. But you're not responsible for other people's emotional reactions to your healthy choices. And maintaining a toxic relationship often enables the other person's harmful patterns. When you stop absorbing poor treatment, you may actually give them the wake-up call they need. Energy vampires deserve special mention. People who consistently take emotional resources without giving anything back. Perpetual victims who never take ownership, chronic complainers who refuse solutions, and drama addicts who steer every conversation back to their chaos. Protect yourself by setting firm time limits, refusing to engage with repetitive negativity, and redirecting conversations away from their preferred dramas. Distance yourself from anyone who consistently pushes a victim mentality. That worldview is incompatible with reconstruction, which demands personal responsibility. And watch for jealousy. When you start growing, some people will feel threatened because your progress highlights their stagnation. They may try to pull you back through guilt, mockery, or subtle sabotage. Recognize this resistance as a reflection of their limitations, not yours. Do not let anyone else's discomfort cap your potential. As you clear out energy drains, actively create space for relationships that fuel your growth. Seek people who inspire you, challenge you, support your vision, and model the qualities you are building in yourself. Quality relationships, like every other aspect of reconstruction, require intentional investment. Your social circle should be a greenhouse for the person you are becoming, not a cage holding the person you used to be. Chapter 13. Upgrading your thinking patterns. The quality of your thinking directly determines the quality of your life. Most people run on outdated default mental software that they inherited from their upbringing and never thought to question. Upgrading your thinking patterns is not optional for anyone serious about personal reconstruction. It is the operating system overhaul that makes every other improvement run faster. Mental models are the invisible frameworks your brain uses to interpret events, evaluate options, and make decisions. They determine what you notice, how you interpret what happens to you, and which responses seem possible or appropriate. Most people never consciously examine their mental models, which means they are operating on autopilot programming that may not serve them at all. Growth mindset is the single most transformative model you can adopt. The belief that abilities, intelligence, and character can all be developed through effort, learning, and persistence fundamentally rewires how you experience challenges, failures, and setbacks. With a growth mindset, obstacles become opportunities to build new capabilities. Mistakes become data points guiding you toward better strategies. Criticism becomes free coaching rather than a personal attack. Its opposite, fixed mindset, the belief that your traits are set in stone, creates learned helplessness and crippling fear of failure. Systems thinking helps you see the interconnected patterns and feedback loops that produce results over time, rather than treating events as isolated incidents. This perspective reveals root causes instead of surface symptoms and helps you understand how small, daily tweaks can compound into life-altering transformations. When you think in systems, you focus on processes rather than outcomes, which leads to more sustainable and predictable progress. The compound effect is the mental model that reveals how small, consistent actions generate exponential results over time. Most people underestimate the power of marginal improvements because the payoff is not immediately visible. But once you internalize compounding, you become far more patient with the process and far more committed to daily consistency. First principles thinking strips complex problems down to their most fundamental truths and builds solutions from there. Instead of relying on assumptions or what everyone else does, you examine the basic elements and reason upward. This is especially powerful for reconstruction because it helps you question limiting beliefs and conventional wisdom about what is possible for your life. Probabilistic thinking acknowledges that most outcomes involve uncertainty and multiple scenarios. Instead of anxiously trying to predict a single future, you evaluate likelihoods and prepare accordingly. This reduces worry while improving your decisions. You take smart risks based on probability rather than avoiding all uncertainty or assuming the worst. Opportunity cost thinking forces you to consider what you are giving up, not just what you are gaining. Every hour spent scrolling is an hour not spent on skill building. Every relationship you maintain out of obligation is energy not invested in one that lifts you. This lens sharpens your time and energy allocation dramatically. Inversion thinking approaches goals by identifying what would guarantee failure and systematically avoiding those paths. For reconstruction, list the habits, mindsets, and relationships that would ensure you stay stuck, then ruthlessly eliminate them. Often, avoiding what does not work is simpler and more effective than forcing what does. The Pareto principle reminds you that roughly 20% of your efforts generate 80% of your results. Identify those high-leverage activities and double down on them while reducing time spent on low-impact busy work. Anti-fragility goes beyond mere resilience. An anti-fragile system does not just survive stress, it gets stronger because of it. Cultivating anti-fragile thinking means actively seeking appropriate challenges and extracting strength from every setback. These models become truly powerful when you weave them into your daily decision-making rather than treating them as abstract concepts. Practice applying them to real choices, real problems, and real opportunities until they become your default way of seeing the world. Chapter 14. Assembly Nung, your personal operating system. Your life currently runs on a personal operating system, a collection of beliefs, habits, routines, and mental patterns that dictate how you function day to day. Most people inherited their operating system from family, culture, and random life events rather than deliberately designing it. Creating a conscious personal operating system is the capstone of sustainable transformation. Think of it like the software running a computer. Your operating system determines which programs can run efficiently. how resources get allocated, what happens automatically, and how the system responds to unexpected input. If the OS is outdated or corrupted, even the best applications will lag and crash. Your operating system has several interconnected layers. Your core beliefs form the foundation. Your daily routines provide structure. Your decision-making frameworks shape how you respond to choices. Your environment influences automatic behavior. Most people try to change their results without upgrading the underlying system. That is why most change attempts fail. You cannot run new programs on old hardware forever. Start by auditing your current system honestly. What beliefs hold you back? What habits waste your energy? What routines support mediocrity instead of excellence? What environmental factors encourage old patterns? Be ruthless in your assessment. Your belief layer is the deepest and most important. Beliefs about what you are capable of, what you deserve, what is possible. These create self-fulfilling prophecies. Replacing limiting beliefs requires both rational evidence and emotional reconditioning. Find examples of people with backgrounds like yours who achieved what you want. Study their strategies. Then build your own evidence through action, starting small and expanding as your confidence grows. Daily routines are the structural framework. Every routine should build capability, advance your goals, or restore your energy. Morning routines set the day's trajectory. Evening routines help process the day and prepare for recovery. Make your routine sustainable and enjoyable, not punitive. If they feel like punishment, rebellion is inevitable. Decision-making frameworks remove emotional drama from choices. Develop clear criteria for how you spend your time, which relationships you invest in, which opportunities you pursue. When you have a framework, you do not agonize over every decision. You evaluate and act. Environmental design ensures your surroundings vote for the person you're becoming. Every element of your physical and social environment should support growth or, at minimum, not actively undermine it. Build in maintenance protocols. Schedule weekly, monthly, and quarterly reviews where you assess what is working and what needs adjustment. Your system should evolve as you grow. What served you in month 1 might need an overhaul by month 6. Integration is the final key. All components, beliefs, routines, frameworks, and environment must align. If your beliefs say growth matters, but your routine has no time for it, you have a conflict that will generate friction. Small synchronized improvements across all layers create less resistance and stick more reliably than trying to completely overhaul one layer at a time. When your operating system is well designed and regularly maintained, living according to your vision becomes the path of least resistance. Chapter 15, The Life That Awaits You. The culmination of committed self-reconstruction is not just a shinier resume or a more impressive skill set. It is a fundamentally different experience of being alive. When you pour focused energy into rebuilding yourself day after day, you do not merely improve your circumstances. You transform the very lens through which you see the world. The change happens gradually, then all at once. For weeks or months, you may feel like you are grinding away with little to show for it. Then, almost without warning, you realize that your thoughts, your reactions, your capabilities, and your daily reality have shifted so dramatically that the old version of you feels like a distant memory. The person who emerges from dedicated reconstruction operates from an entirely different internal state. Instead of reacting to life, you shape it. Instead of being pushed around by emotions, you ride them skillfully. Instead of hoping for better outcomes, you engineer them through disciplined daily action. This does not mean challenges vanish. It means your capacity to meet them grows beyond what you ever imagined possible. Your relationship with difficulty transforms. Rather than avoiding hard things, you begin seeking out the right kind of hard, the challenges that stretch you, strengthen you, and reveal what you are truly made of. Comfort stops being a destination and starts being a warning sign. You are no longer willing to trade your potential for temporary ease. Your relationships reach a new level of depth and authenticity. When you have built genuine self-respect and emotional stability, you naturally attract people who share those qualities. Toxic dynamics become impossible to sustain because you simply will not tolerate anything that diminishes your energy or derails your progress. You also become a better partner, friend, and family member because you are giving from overflow rather than scraping from the bottom of an empty barrel. Your financial life improves not just through higher earnings, but through wiser decisions. Discipline, long-term thinking, and self-control naturally produce better financial outcomes. Money becomes a tool for building the life you want, not a source of chronic anxiety. The speed at which you can learn and adapt accelerates. Your brain grows more flexible, your confidence deepens, and your strategies become more refined. What used to take months might now take weeks. Change stops being scary because you trust your ability to develop whatever the situation demands. Your physical health improves as a natural side effect. The habits, discipline, and self-care that support mental and emotional growth also support physical vitality. You sleep better, eat better, move more, and handle stress with far greater ease. Your sense of purpose crystallizes. Instead of drifting through options, you develop a clear and deeply personal vision of what matters to you and why. That clarity makes every daily decision simpler and every action more meaningful. The baseline anxiety that comes from feeling lost or unprepared fades away, replaced by a quiet confidence in your ability to handle whatever comes next. Your tolerance for mediocrity in yourself and in your surroundings disappears. Standards that once seemed impossibly high become your new normal, and your influence on others grows naturally. People notice the change. They are drawn to your energy, your steadiness, your quiet sense of direction. You inspire without trying, simply by living according to your principles. But the deepest transformation is the one that happens inside. The harsh inner critic softens. The relentless self-doubt quiets. In their place, a steady, grounded self-respect takes root, not arrogance, but the kind of healthy self-relationship that allows you to show up fully for others without losing yourself in the process. This transformation is not a finish line. It is a new way of traveling. The person you become will keep growing, facing new edges, and reaching toward higher summits. But you will face those future challenges from a foundation of strength, clarity, and self-trust that makes anything feel within reach. The life you build through focused daily reconstruction becomes your most powerful message to the world. It is living proof that personal transformation is not a fairy tale reserved for a lucky few. It is an achievable reality for anyone willing to commit to the work day after day, choice by choice. By rebuilding yourself, you demonstrate what is possible for human potential. You become an example that others can follow, a beacon of what happens when someone takes complete ownership of their development and refuses to settle for anything less than their best. This is the real power of focusing on yourself every single day. Not just creating a better life for yourself, but becoming the kind of person who elevates every room, every relationship, and every community you touch through the force of your example and the depth of your character. This is what waits for you on the other side of committed, consistent, daily self-reconstruction, and it is worth every ounce of effort it takes to get there. So here is my challenge to you. Do not put this down and go back to scrolling. Do not nod along and then forget everything by tomorrow morning. Choose one practice from this guide, just one, and commit to it for the next 30 days. Set your alarm. Write it in your calendar. Tell someone who will hold you accountable. Make it so small and so specific that there is no room for excuses. And then show up, day after day, rain or shine, motivated or not. Because the distance between the life you are living and the life you are capable of living is not measured in luck or talent. It is measured in the daily choices you make about where to aim your focus, your energy, and your time. You have everything you need to begin. The only question left is whether you will. And something tells me you will. Because the fact that you are still here, still reading, still searching for the path forward, tells me everything I need to know about the kind of person you already are underneath the noise. Now, go build.